So I'm last anyway, and it's hard to follow the Ghostbusters, but I'll give it a blast. So part C, that's what I'm focusing on today. And apologies, lads, I'll repeat some of the stuff you've heard already, but I'll try to be quick about it. Quick disclaimer: these are just stuff we're encountering on building sites. We're going to start up by just quickly running through part C. Then some of the stuff that's within their radon, again, I'll go through quickly, and the main thing will be some photos of what we're encountering on building sites. So part C, I have a copy of it here. It's only 28 pages. There's only 10 diagrams, section C1 to C3. I don't know if anyone actually read the whole lot from start to finish. You'd read it in 40 minutes from a flight from Kerry up to Dublin. That's where I read it. The guide to the right, you probably won't ask for, can I have it after you? But it's not Ulysses, it's easy to read, and it's very important, because if you get it wrong, part C you'll really struggle to get it right. And again, this is repeated earlier today, it's for non-complex buildings, normal design, and I actually didn't know the answer, but I found it earlier from Simon. Therefore, the ACDs, if the ACDs apply, therefore part C applies. Why it's important, again, I took these photos, I was on holidays there, these are just clippings from last week. I suppose the whole of Europe is in a housing crisis. You know, we 2 ministers here today. You know, they're here because this is a hot topic. If we get part C wrong, you ain't going to get it right. So there's a lot of interest in getting it right from the start. This slide's probably the one I'll spend most time on just for a minute. So I sat down and I started thinking, right, we've all the different building regulations and who's responsible. Now this is my view, okay? So part A, you have a structural engineer. Part B, you have a fire officer and a fire consultant. Part C, I've put down the builder, architect, question mark. D is everybody. E, of acoustic engineers. F, ventilation and mechanical. Hygiene and drainage, G and H, if civil engineer, plumbers. Part J, even though they won't take ownership, the fire officer and the fire consultant have to deal with it. Part K, the architect, the engineer. L, which, you know, is very complicated, is mech and elect engineer. And then part M, you've got a disabled access cert. So the point of the slide is really, if you go back to part C, you're relying on the builder, especially if you have an opt-out, that he does this right at the start, that he puts in the radon barrier, puts in the sump. I've yet to meet an architect when out checking that the detail is done right. You know what I mean? The ACDs are there, we should be using them, we should be putting them on drawings. And I've got the code of practice there, just a clip from the right. If you opt out, you're losing a lot of those roles. You're losing the assigned certifier and the designer. So often the homeowner becomes all of those roles. And part C, as I said, you get it wrong, you ain't going to get it right too easy. Routes to compliance. Again, if you completely comply, there's only this, the grey text there is extracted straight from the document. If you completely comply with the prima facie, comply with part C, you do have the alternative approach. Once you comply with it, can prove you're complying with it, you can use a different method. Again, I repeat, non-complex buildings. And then for existing buildings, I suppose, Europe's at war. I know in Kerry we've, you know, a lot of buildings that are going for change of use. So we have a lot of existing buildings that are getting material alterations, change of use. So maybe unduly restrictive. So you don't have to employ it in its totality, but you have to be, you know, common sense. And I got some photos of that in the coming slides. So radon, this is discussed at length. Radon naturally occurs, it's uranium, it leaks out of the igneous rock into the soil, okay? If it causes lung cancer, it's as simple as that. I think we've all discussed it, the 200 back wells, 300 back wells. If you put down the fully sealed membrane and you put in the radon sump, you have options, you know what I mean? You can deal with it later if it still gets through. What's disappointing is within part C, it says it should be installed by an appropriate trained personnel. So for a building control officer going to site, there's no at the end of the job going, oh, can I see your certificate for the install or whatever? It can be the builder that installed. So you're just really asking for a DOP. Then I just put an extract there from the Irish Times. Down in Kerry, we found a house that had 185 times above the maximum allowable rate. And that actually, someone equated it back in the article to getting 125 radiation exposure of 125 chest x-rays a day. So it's serious, and it can be disastrous for the people living in the house. The other part of part C, again, resistant to moisture. And again, I've just put up a few, you know, just extracts there of the acceptable construction details. Again, this has been spoken at length by Tom. And again, the diagrams are quite simple, but it's amazing how many times people either don't know the diagram or just get that wrong. So I'll just go through now some photos of some good stuff and some not so good stuff. So again, block cavity wall, they're putting down the underfloor insulation, a screed will go on that. We can see radon barriers coming in, lapping down, lapping out. That's pretty good. We're happy to see something like that. Looks like a nice clean site. Again, this is remedial work. It's an existing building, change of use. Again, he's gone with a DPM. You can see it around the side, but putting down insulation and a concrete slab will go down on top of that again. Again, moderate methods of construction. It's been highlighted a number of times today. I come onto a building site, I'm encountering this. I'm going to check what the agreement cert is. I'm going to check, is the agreement cert in date? They only last for 5 years. They have to be renewed. And then check, is it still time? Can the radon barrier be put in? Yes, it can. Does it look right? Yeah, it looks pretty good. They've looked at services and it looks to be installed as per the agreement cert. So some not so good. Again, here's our diagram 10 from part C. Water ingress was obviously getting in behind the stonework here. Freeze thaw action, not enough fixings, and the block actually failed during a storm. It was actually sucked off. That's a crash. So again, that'll make national media if that had happened during daytime. Thankfully, no one was injured or anything like that, and it was fixed. Again, it was being touched at SR35. Again, I'm down in Kerry. So what we're looking for is 2 undercoats and a final coat. Whether we're getting it the whole time, it depends if the building control officer comes in the gate, I suppose. But that's what we're looking for. If anyone in Kerry is looking for an SR or any of the standards, email building control, we'll send them out. We're here to promote compliance or promote knowledge, not to charge people. Some of the not so good stuff, again, on the left here, blockwork strap here, the blockwork's not protected. There's no traceability on the straps. So I don't know where that came from. So like my query here is, and again, I didn't see Tom's slide, but 7.5 Newton block not to be left unrendered in exposed conditions. How long was that there? Where did it come from? And then this one here, this is actually blockwork that's fully wrapped till it's put in use and it's fully traceable. So in this instance, we would ask for, can you send us on the DOP? Where did this come from? What strength it is? Does it comply with ISAN? The usual queries. But that's standard stuff we'd encounter. This is more good photos. And again, we didn't talk before these presentations, but that's your movement joint. Again, I put an extract from the DOP. So Roadstone, Kilsarn, all these block guys, they've got their act together. They're putting all this information into DOPs. So as Tom was expressing, when it does crack, he's just telling you, you didn't read your DOP. It's as simple as that. So don't come crying to us. And in this particular one, you can see the fire barrier there in the separating wall. There's good wall ties. So again, it's a good example of a nice tidy site where your man knows what he's doing. Floor details, part M, they have to be flat for the accessible door. Again, I don't design the doors, so this is Munster Joinery. Go back and get the detailed Munster Joinery or what they've got their engineers to look at and see this going in. The water gets into this transom and it finds its way out again. But again, if you're unsure, get what the manufacturer's recommending because they've looked at it. Some of the not so good stuff. So the house on the left here is actually a terraced house. Off to the left, again, it's a moderate method of construction. This guy here, 7A, I think that's written on with a purple marker, is an existing house. Like when he was finished with this guy's going to get moisture ingress, and so will the chap on the right. So again, the engineer or the architect or the surveyor or whoever didn't fully think out the detail, and then we're trying to do a bit of a mismatch. How are we going to fix the problem kind of a thing, some sort of a flashing and all the rest, but you don't want to be seeing this, it's not acceptable. This one here is again, I suppose, look, it looks worse than it is. It's easy to resolve once you know about it. It's a moderate method of construction. I suppose the concrete was either A, put in too dry, or B, it wasn't vibrated correctly, so you could actually put your hand in there. So I said, look, I'll highlight, like, you have a structural issue here, you have a fire issue, you have obviously a moisture issue, you're going to have an acoustic issue, an energy performance issue. All easy to fix once you know about it. And that's the key thing is, you know about early doors. Other than that, you're going to inherit all these problems into your building, and you put a plasterboard on and you'll never know about it. Another one of what not to do. Again, this is a blockwork wall cavity. That's a solid piece of insulation. Here's two pieces rammed together. That's the outer face. Again, two different types of insulation pushed up against the external leaf. You're asking for trouble. You know what I mean? That's a window there, and that's what we're encountering. And in Kerry, we ring before we go ahead. We don't just say, well, I don't arrive. I let the guy. I want to meet the assigned certifier. So this is what I'm encountering yeah. Okay. So anyway, floor joists again for moisture part C. You can see the water ingress here. So you've got the floor joists here running straight through, and they're touching the out. That photo's taken from the inside. So the floor joists are running straight through the cavity, touching the outside leaf. Again, structural issue, fire issue, moisture, and acoustics. I just took out a bit there of technical guidance document A. Again, a restraint type joist hanger. We're trying to wouldn't take much to have it right, then have it wrong. This is hard to see today here, but that's all moisture in here, right? Internally, tiled floor. So it's coming up, but this is actually starting to rot. So you have moisture ingress. And again, some of the common causes of this could be the DPC wasn't put in, DPM might be missing, no insulation maybe. Ventilation is another thing. It's been highlighted today. Our buildings are becoming more and more airtight. If moisture gets in, it's going to show itself a lot faster. Like previously, we were kind of half getting away literally with murder because we had naturally ventilated. We had a hole in every room. We had air coming in and coming out. So we were actually getting away with stuff we shouldn't get away. Whereas now we're being found out, ultra airtight buildings, and we've the same attitude or lax attitude to detailing, and we're being found out when the building, and again, you find out when the building owner moves in, it's nearly too late. But again, keeping on the roof, this is again a picture. You can see the black mold appearing, moisture ingress. Again, some of the issues here is insulation is missing, no vapor barrier, and maintenance. Maintenance been mentioned. Guys finish their buildings and they walk away. Buildings need to be maintained, need to be painted. The gutters need to be cleaned, and all that good stuff to make sure your building lasts. Again, another one of moisture ingress through a flat roof, and actually there's actually some peeling here of some of the plasterboard. Again, insulation, vapor barrier, maintenance, painting. Another one similar, again, not enough insulation in the flat roof, and you can see the moisture's coming through. And again, ventilation, no ventilation in that room. So some of the good stuff, it's not all bad. Modern methods of construction. These are actually very interesting. If you ever see them, they're full EPS panels. They come, two men can lift them. You fix them in place, and that's actually supported. That's your roof. That's your roof. Tiles, batten, vapor barrier, go down on that super fast. Again, get the extract from the agreement cert. Again, Class O there. I don't know. That must be a typo because EPS is Class E, but that's what I found when I went looking. That's your final build. It's a fully insulated house, concrete inside. There's kind of a screenshot of when it's tiled, when it's slated, and the render goes on the outside. You wouldn't even know. You won't know that it's modern metal construction. Looks the exact same as a traditional build. But again, just get the agreement cert, make sure it's right. So guys, to summarize, and I only touched on it, apologies if I went too fast. On the opt-outs, in Kerry, I think we're approaching 70%, 65% opt-outs. So all our commencement notices are opt-outs. If you're opting out, you've no statutory certification, you've no sign certifier, you've no design cert, you've no builder undertaking, and you've no certificate of compliance on completion. Yet you still have to comply with building regulations and building control regulations. The owner often doesn't know that, and they're now responsible for the design, the details, the certification. And to them, that issue only arises when they go to sell the house and part of the conveyance, their solicitor or the purchaser solicitor starts looking for some documentation, and the guys are going, or the girl is going, I'm not too sure. But anyway, section 11, here are just a few of the things. Again, I didn't want to have too much stuff, but this is some of the stuff we would look for when we're out on site. Blockwork masonry, 7.5 newtons, conforming to the ISCN. Again, with your aggregates, our famous SR21, the presence of pyrite, the issues that's left behind. The membrane fully sealed with a radon available to extract some of the, if we had to. The workplaces, and I'm not sure about the answer to this, but in the new technical guidance document C, it puts down workplaces and a limit of 300 back wells. I'm not sure is it part of the building control officer's remit now to ask when you go into a place and there's, you know, especially at an enforcement level or change of use, we have a lot of buildings now that are coming online and there's full-time security guards in there, you know, during the housing crisis or whatever. And should we be looking for that? Because it's not being tested for, but I think we have the powers to under the Act. And the last one there is just ISCN 1610. Again, for big drainage systems that'll be underneath some of the bigger buildings like primary care centre or residential nursing home, just that the pressure testing is done on some of the drainage pipes, because it's just common sense that you would do it. And a lot of the bigger guys, they're doing that, they would check for it anyway. So guys, that's a quick whistle-top tour of building control and what we're encountering. Thank you.